Hello, Dragon Nation. I'm Russ Snyder, voice of the Dragons, director of broadcasting here on the campus of Tiffin University. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us in this very strange and unreal time that we're dealing with here. Recently, I had a chance to sit down with alumni director Vicki Wilkins, and we had a chance to talk about why it's important to talk about our student athletes, our coaches, and our administration on how everybody's dealing with the COVID situation and how we're going to deal with it as we move forward. Last year, we missed out on a lot of our spring sports. We missed out on a lot of our fall sports, including homecoming, and all the gatherings that our friends and family and alumni are able to gather on our campus and celebrate the athletics here at Tiffin University. So we're going to talk to some of our coaches today. We're going to talk to our Vice President for Athletics, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we've reacted to this COVID situation and what we're going to do moving forward. So now I'd like to introduce our panel if we could. First to my left, our football coach, Coach Chris Reiser. Up next is our head track and field coach and cross country coach, Jeremy Croy. Up next is our baseball coach, Joe Wilkins. Next to Joe is our Vice President of Athletics, Lonny Allen. To his right is our head men's golf coach, Jake Miller. To his right is our head men's basketball coach, Tom Church. And to his right, our head volleyball coach, Shauna Hurls. First of all, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this panel. Hopefully we'll get through this and we'll be able to move forward in a real positive manner as we move forward in our athletic ventures. All right, well, let's get started, guys, if you're ready. Let's go back a little bit. Let's start with you, Coach Croy, okay? Coach Croy, you had an interesting spring, to say the least, all right? You were indoor track and field season, towards the end of the season, at the Nationals down in Alabama, and abruptly stopped by the COVID-19. I know many of your student athletes competing at the Nationals maybe had a chance to take the crown again as they were returning national champions. I know we can't go back, but let's talk a little bit about those student athletes who were able to return to compete and what it's looking like for us in the upcoming indoor track and field season.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it was an abrupt end. I mean, it was speedy. We still thought we were going to get that national championship meet in, but as the Big Ten championships started canceling and other basketball championships around the tournaments around the country, I think our eyes started raising a little bit, and a little worry came upon us. So I don't have the huge event coach relationship with our athletes, so it was mainly our throws coach or our jumps coach or our sprints coach or our distance coach that was dealing with the emotional one-on-one cancellation of their national championships. I mean, we had 22 people down there. Maybe 6 of them were seniors, and maybe 4 of those 6 are returning for this year's outdoor season. So they don't get their indoor season back, but they do get their outdoor season back, and everybody's in great spirits. It's a positive vibe at practice every day.
You say it's a positive vibe down, everybody in great spirits. Talk a little bit about that when the realization first hit that you were going to have to send your student athletes home, and the conversation you had to have with your coaches in order for them to relay that to the student athletes.
Well, that conversation was, I was actually driving in a car and maybe riding passenger in a car. I wasn't texting while driving, but we had a group text, so I didn't see a lot of the coaches' emotions, and then they dealt with the emotion of each of those individuals just sort of in a one-on-one quick setting. So maybe a 2-on-1, but for the most part. So lots of tears. The bus ride home from Alabama to Tiffin was something I'll never forget. I mean, it was pretty quiet. I mean, a couple chuckles here and there, but it was nobody understood what was going on. And then when they canceled the outdoor season, everybody obviously thought that was really premature. We didn't really understand the virus, understand why they would cancel something 12 weeks from now. It didn't make sense. We'd never experienced anything like that before, so a lot of confusion.
But you mentioned positivity right now. Talk a bit about the positivity, because student athletes, young people, in order to get them in that right frame of mind, takes a little bit of coaching. It takes a little coaching to keep them there.
I mean, we preach that we're one of the few people that were competing during the cross-country season. We're preaching that we're one of the few track teams that's sort of going, and it's not as norm. We're doing 9-to-1 ratios, much smaller groups, which is a much better experience for the student athletes. It's a lot harder on a coaching staff, but I think the student athletes are enjoying that more, the smaller, more intimate training sessions.
Well, thank you, Coach Croy. Let's move on now to Coach Wilkins. Coach Wilkins, welcome to the panel. Now let's look back real quick at 2019, a great year for Tiffin University baseball. You had a great run in the GMAC championships in order to earn that NCAA Division II baseball championship berth, and had a great run up there at Kent State University. And then you got off to a great start at 2020 with a 9-2 record while you're down in Florida. Best start in school's history. Then COVID comes. How has that changed the expectations for your baseball team as you look into the 2020 campaign, 2021 campaign?
I don't know if it changes any expectations. Expectations are set high, and the bar is set higher and higher each year. The emotions of COVID and the season being canceled. The emotions started back in 2019, so we're riding that momentum into that next season and got the rug pulled out from under us. But these guys are positive. As positive as they can be, and we're looking forward to a great 2021.
Coach Croy mentioned positivity. You mentioned positivity. That's one thing you have to do with your student athletes right now is make sure you maintain the positivity with them. And that starts with the coaching staff as well. Talk a little bit about the conversations you've had with your coaches to make sure you maintain that positivity with your student athletes.
Well, it starts with me as far as needing motivation, so I'm talking to other people and seeing what they're doing and kind of feeding off their positivity. Coaching staff here, Coach Allen, just trying to grab some positivity to give them positivity. So,
and how do you maintain?
When they say we're all in this together, I mean it's a real deal.
Right.
From the coaches to the administration to everybody, trying to keep our heads up and stay afloat and keep these kids going.
How do you maintain that momentum you build up with this long pause?
Just keep working. It's what we preach to the guys, so we got to do it ourselves. So these guys are working hard. We got a mission to not let 2019 be the fluke season, and just get better and better each day.
Well, thank you, Coach Wilkins. Let's move over now to Coach Reiser, our head football coach. Coach Reiser, thanks for being part of the panel.
Of course.
You also coming off a great season in 2019 as well with the football team, a GMAC championship and a berth in the NCAA Division II National Tournament, and that was a real fun ride for myself. Got to take a nice long ride home with our Vice President of Athletics, Lonny Allen. But let's talk about what is it that your staff have done this fall to get your team ready and engaged for competition. With football being in the spring, that's something nobody on your staff or any of your student athletes have ever experienced.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, it's completely unprecedented, right? There is no playbook, there is no rule book, there's really not even somebody you can call to get their advice on, hey, how did you handle this back when? Because nobody's been in that situation. And so for us, it was a few things. One, we wanted to create as safe an environment as we possibly could. I think our administration from top down has done a tremendous job of cultivating an environment of safety. And so everything needed to be in that vein. The second thing was we wanted to try and find ways to add value to our guys that in a traditional fall we wouldn't be able to. So, for instance, we went to an NFL combine training where they got to do 40-yard dash training, they got shuttle training, and 5-10-5 training, and then they got to do a big event 6 weeks later where we were in the stadium and it was streamed and people could watch them run and hit their personal records. And so, if I'm not mistaken, I think we had over 1,700 people that tuned in to watch that, which was just a really neat event for the guys. The other thing we've tried to do in terms of adding value was try and look outside of ball, right? So simple things. Every Wednesday we do our Dragon Scholars, where we have different speakers, different presentations, come in and talk to our guys about life after football. So could be as simple as we got everybody registered to vote. We have financial literacy presenters come in and talk about that, or it could be drawing upon some of the past tradition of our program that is so proud, and having them come and talk to our guys about why Tiffin was so special and how it helped propel them to success in football and in business. Then the last thing, Russ, I think is just having fun. Trying to make it as light as we can do it. Like Joe said, I think our university has done a tremendous job of the standard is a standard, right? It's not going to lower, so we still have to perform when we do get the opportunity to compete. But at the same time, we're gonna make sure we enjoy it. We stop and smell the roses a little bit and really just enjoy each other's company.
You mentioned something about the former athletes and being able to touch base with them. You have a group of young men on your football team has a lot of veteran leadership. Have you had to lean on them a little bit to get through these hard times?
Yeah, certainly. I think anytime where we have player-led football team, that's going to be a benefit to you. And so our older guys have done a really good job of kind of setting the tone. Certainly more off the field than maybe on the field even. I think this is a time where how we handle ourselves off the field has a direct reflection of our ability to play good football on the field. And so our older guys have done a good job of really kind of steadying that and setting the bar really high in terms of what our expectations, what a Dragon should be. And so they've done a great job, I think, of really propelling us into this unknown.
And does that allow you to get some extra work in with your coaches away from that area that some of your student athletes, the veterans, can take care of?
Certainly. No, and that's a big thing for us, is just the personal relationships. And so, I think our staff has done a really good job in this time of using this extra allowable time to really be able to get to know our guys and try and, again, figure out how we can make them improve in more ways than just ball. And so that's been a blessing as well, being able to really kind of pour into those guys off the field.
Coach Reiser, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move now to our men's golf coach, Coach Miller. Coach Miller, thank you so much for being a part of our panel today. So, men's golf, you're actually able to compete this year. So you're one of the few, like Coach Croy, you guys have a little bit of different experience than some of these other coaches who've had to miss an entire season. So you were able to compete a little bit this fall. Let's talk about what you had to do this fall to be ordered and able to compete, and talk about how your season ended up.
Yeah, so golf is a little bit different than most sports, I'd say. If there's a sport where you can social distance 24/7, golf is it. You're never really within 20 feet of the person you're playing with or against. So we did a lot of qualifying, a lot of inter-squad stuff. Our season started about 3 weeks later than it normally would have. So it was good for our guys to get a lot of reps one-on-one. And then we normally have 6 events in the fall because of NCAA regulations. We went to 4 events in the fall, which was still fine. It was a huge blessing to compete. My guys knew that. And then one of the events we actually lodged at. I think we were the only team on campus that lodged, so we took very big precautions in that, and sanitizing, having a professional company come in and sanitize before we got there, and then I sanitized again, and then we were almost in our little bubble. So I talked to Mr. Allen about, when we're in there, I feel like I have a really good control of our guys, what they're doing, especially when I'm not with them. So that was good. It was great to compete. We saw some teams we never got to see, and it was good. Our guys knew that they were very, very fortunate, especially looking across campus, knowing we have so many other sports teams that have had so much success that we definitely didn't take it for granted that we could do it, and unfortunately they weren't able to.
Talk a little bit about that first contest when you guys were when you knew you were going to be able to compete. You're one of the few on campus that has to be able to, and talk about a little bit about how much that meant to your kids to be able to be out there wearing the Dragon on their chest and competing.
Yeah, it was cool. We went over to Finley Country Club and played in the Docks Bragg. It was funny because we host our home event, the Kyle Ryan Memorial, and with all these COVID protocols, how do you hand out scorecards? How do you hand out box lunches? How do you do the flag stick? How do you do this? And I leaned on Mr. Allen a lot, probably bugged him a lot about it, but I wanted to make sure we were doing things the right way, and we could go to that first event, and they were the test dummy, so we got to see what they did, and then the next event that was hosted in Indianapolis, they pretty much followed suit, and then so on and so forth. But yeah, our guys were super excited, and it was pretty cool to see.
Have your kids adjusted well to everything that's been going on and just being able to get back to being a student and a student athlete?
For sure, yeah. It's been difficult, but I think the professors they're very good about it. They're very helpful. They know that, I think it was Coach Wilkins said, we are all in this together. No matter what sports team you're on, faculty, whatever. And we got our spring season taken away last year. Golf's a weird sport where I tell people it's like we play the first half in the fall, take a big halftime over winter, then play the second half in the spring. So knowing that we could play, we were not going to take anything for granted, whether that's school or whatever. Yeah,
thank you, Coach Miller. Appreciate it. All right, Coach Hurls. Let's move on to Shauna Hurls, our head volleyball coach. Coach Hurls, thank you so much for being a part of the panel today. And let's talk a little bit here. Volleyball team, awesome year in 2019. You had some great success that you've taken over the program here so far. Now, that momentum, that success, building. We talked a little bit to Coach Wilkins about how do you maintain that momentum as you go into this recruiting season, heading into a new spring 2021 season. Like others we spoke to, it's a spring season for volleyball, much different.
Right. So after last year, even in the spring, we were kind of preaching unity. So I know we've already talked about that a lot. So we are all in this together. But we lost a big statistical contributor. So we were really focusing on everybody making their own contribution. So I think that kind of is carrying over now as far as our practice time and different things like that. I read a book over the summer. It's Chop Wood, Carry Water, and it just happened to be fall in love with the process of becoming great. And I think this year we have a lot of process time. So that's something that the girls have really bought into, is that we are slowly going to make that journey of hopefully becoming great for this spring season, even though it's shortened, that we still want to do big things, we want to do good things, we want to get back to the conference finals again.
How much has this changed your coaching philosophy, I guess, with being a spring season and just all the chaos that has ensued with everything?
Having all this time has been a little bit difficult. I've had to take some deep breaths a little bit and not be so intense all of the time. I think you guys talked about having more fun in our practices. We had a Halloween practice. We had to reset just a little bit and did some fun gameplay. But it's definitely something that I've had to pivot on a little bit, because we aren't playing immediately with our 2 weeks of preseason. We have several months before we play. So.
You lost a big team leader last year. How did the kids come together to move into some leadership roles with a strange setting this year?
They've done a great job. So obviously Jenna was huge for us, but we still have 3 of our captains back, and they've done an awesome job as far as leading our younger kids. We brought in a large class of freshmen, and they've done a good job of taking them by the hand and kind of leading them through and having them understand what our standard is. Even in this weird time, we're still going to compete and not just work hard.
Coach Earls, thank you so much. All right, Tiffin University head men's basketball coach Tom Church is on our panel next. Coach Church, thank you so much for being a part of the panel.
Thank you.
All right, basketball schedule just released recently. No out-of-conference games, right?
We will get 2.
You'll get 2,
Yeah,
but still a much different schedule than what you're used to. Talk a little bit about this upcoming schedule and the fact that you're being pushed back a little bit. Everybody's schedule's been, adjusted differently, but talk a little bit about your schedule this year.
Well, there's definitely been some anxiety and nervousness, but yeah, we're going to be able to play a 22-game schedule. Shortened season, not playing as many games. We're pushed back until December 3rd. But with all that being said, we're extremely excited. The fact that we are going to be able to have a season, there's a plan in place, but everybody is in the same boat. There's really no excuses because everybody's dealing with it. But our administration, university, our conference has done a great job of being able to put things in place for us to be able to play.
Is there anything that'll be different in the gym of basketball as far as regulations are concerned with this upcoming season?
Yeah, with the fans, that's going to be a big change, and I think it's going to be left up to the hosting university to decide, what that's going to look like. Whether there are going to be fans, whether there's going to be no fans, limiting capacity. So that will all kind of play out as the year goes on. But like I said, we're extremely excited to have the chance to play, because for a while there you didn't know what it was going to look like. And thankfully the NCAA did grant men's and women's basketball a waiver for this year. So everybody gets their year back, which is a great thing. So everybody can take a deep sigh of relief there to know that they get that year back.
Now you had a little bit of a change in your coaching staff this year, and it was kind of a hard time to do that with everything that's going on. How have your new guys come in and adjusted, not only with you, but also with your student athletes?
Really good, and the coaching staff change, and it kind of put me on the same playing level with all the other staffs, though, because nobody could really go out and recruit, March and April. So through Zoom calls, we were able to really do some good recruiting, but really happy with my staff. Coach Swank, who came from Wisconsin Green Bay Division I university. He actually worked for the guy that I worked for 3 years, so very similar, knows the drill.
The relationship's already there.
Relationship's already there, so it's been a really easy transition. And 2 graduate assistants, Tyler Holcomb and Jarrell Taylor, who've transitioned easily to the staff because they were former players.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Coach Church. Now, one more panelist, our Vice President of Athletics, Mr. Lonny Allen. Mr. Allen, thank you again for being part of the panel. Student athletes are your thing. That's everything with you in your profession. What safety precautions have you had to make this year to make sure your student athletes were safe this fall? In a brief sense.
It's been a whirlwind. These coaches, I say this all the time, it's not me, we're so coach driven. If you look across our programs and you look at the coaches and what they're doing, and you can tell why we have success in our athletic department. And we had meeting after meeting after meeting just to get ready for the fall and to get the student athletes here, provide them with a safe environment, even starting in the summer when we had voluntary workouts. And these guys helped with the decision process. We were talking to other institutions, we were talking to other organizations. How can we keep our student athletes as safe as we can? And I know that these guys got tired of hearing the word diligent. I mean, I said that for the first 2 weeks of school, I think we probably had 14 Zoom calls in the middle of the day, just boom, emergency Zoom call, this is what's going on, and how do you, I'll use Shauna's word, how do you pivot? Because we didn't know. And so we're making adjustments on the fly. It's just like coaching. You know, you get in a game plan and all of a sudden somebody punches you right in the mouth, and how do we adjust from that, right? And so we had to kind of go over here this way, and we did a lot of things wrong, but at the end of the day, we did more things right.
Let's talk a little bit about how proud you are of your coaching staff and how they've been able to adjust to this craziness we've all had to adjust to, not only with their dealings with administration, but with their student athletes.
They're amazing. You know, it was a process. It was a process since March 11th. You know, we sent everybody away. How do they keep the student athletes engaged so that they return? And then more importantly, we have to get another class for next year. So how do we do that? And I think these guys leaned on each other. What are you doing? What's working for you? And I mean, we had record enrollment. We have 1,017 students here for athletics this fall. That's unprecedented. We've never had that many. And you know, these guys are doing such a great job.
How about the student athletes, how they're so resilient, how they're able to deal with this and bounce back and move forward to that?
You know, they're student athletes. They're college kids. They want to do the college thing, and we've harped on them, safety, safety, safety. Do you want to have the season? Do you not want to have the season? You have to be masked. You have to have your mask on properly. You have to social distance. They are so tired of hearing about it, and I know we're tired of saying it, but it has to be done. It's the grind. It's part of the grind of coaching now is COVID policing. And you know, these guys are not only coaches, they're COVID policing, they're mental health, not experts, but they're trying to help with mental health, because this is just something that's so uncertain, and they've done such a great job.
Some of the crazy things about being a coach of student athletes, you're not only teaching the fundamentals of your sport, but you're teaching the fundamentals of life as well, and especially in a situation like this.
Absolutely, and every day, you know, I worry about their mental health, because it's a grind. It is a grind, and to add just to what the grind was before, to add all of this on top of that is, I mean, it's a weird time.
Give me a phrase or a word or something about how we're going to moving forward as a university from here on to get through the rest of this school year, and then just push forward for the following.
Just stay the course. That's the thing. Stay the course. We're going to come into way more adversity along the way. Something's going to happen, and we're going to have to sit here, and we're going to have to lean on each other and rally around, and heck, we all say it, we're all in this together. And it starts from me, the president, all the way down to the fourth string shortstop, right? And everybody has a role to play, and we all have to make sure that we do our roles.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for being a part of our panel this morning. Coach Earls, thank you so much. Coach Church, Coach Miller, Mr. Allen, Coach Wilkins, Coach Croy, and Coach Reiser. Continued success, everybody. Thank you so much for your time, and as always, go Dragons.
Go Dragons.